Today's episode is dedicated to all those times you felt like an imposter at a networking event or any program. It is for you when you've always had to assume different personalities in order to fit in, not because you want to be fake, but because you can't find anyone who relates to who you really are. It is also for you if you are beginning to have those conversations with yourself about possibly being confident about where you're coming from and being shamelessly so. Thank you for joining today's episode. No more rambling. Let's go inside. Hi, friends. This is Sechel. Welcome to the Ambitious Africans podcast, where you and I inspire Africa's brightest and youthful change leaders to be their most authentic selves whilst disrupting what the world knows about the continent. And I hope today's content gets you answers. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Growing up, my way of navigating weird situations, when I say weird, I mean any situation I did not grow up experiencing. When I had opportunity to experience those, to have those experiences, I had to learn my way through. There's something I say that 95% of everything I know now was learned. I believe I don't have a special talent. I'm not a talented person per se, but everything I know, I learned. I poured myself into learning. And that is not a skill that just came by because, for example, I have a fantastic brain that can decode concepts quickly, but it was because I also trained myself to have that kind of mind. So I would say that my ability to learn new things very fast was fueled or was built on the foundation that I was constantly put in different situations or different experiences I didn't originally grow having. And so, in order to fit in and not seem different or not feel like a misfit, I had to learn so quickly. And doing that constantly, what now I would call my ability to learn things fast, or what you might call autodidactism. And perhaps that might be the same for you. You didn't grow up having a lot of skills that were considered basic. And so it was like, okay, even to be normal or even to have basic skills, you had to exert yourself with, more effort. And I really want to use this time to possibly bring your mind to some of the things you have taught yourself without even realizing. I mean, if you were born in a ghetto like I was, or if you were born and bred there, or that's where you're coming from, chances are I could literally say there's a 99.99% chance that you've taught yourself many things you did not even realize you were doing. You taught yourself how to dress. You taught yourself how to speak good English. You taught yourself how to look good. You taught yourself how to meet people. You taught yourself how to learn things. You taught yourself how to observe other people. And you taught yourself how to learn things fast. And let me know if it's not the same for you, especially if you had the same background as I did. I would really want to know if you don't think it's the same for you. I mean, how many of us have gone to events that, let's say, our 15-year 16-year-old self went to an event and your fellow teenagers are acting in quote unquote normal ways. They are flossing over each other. They are cool, they are chill, they don't have any sense of insecurity building up in them. At least it doesn't show on their faces. They feel so relaxed and they feel really at place. Like they really feel like they're in the right place. Um they don't feel like they are misplaced in any way, right? They feel so they feel so at home wherever these events might happen. For me, it was during, let's say, church camp. I remember this time I had to my sister got us this great opportunity to go for a camp, like a church camp at another church. And that was one of those experiences. I met other teenagers who were so chill, so relaxed, and it didn't seem like there was something weird about themselves. But the whole time, I felt so insecure. Chances are you've had that same situation, and you still have those situations, or you still have those experiences brewing up within you, where you go to a place, or where you've been to places or parties, programs, whatever programs they might be, you've been there, and then you have this burden of looking your insecurity in the face and tearing it down, or ignoring it and still having a good time. Like, you have that double burden of putting aside your insecurity and having a good time. And if you're anyone who has experienced this situation, you know, okay, you know it's not so easy. It's not so easy. I mean, I hear a lot of people share their insecurity stories on how they don't feel confident in their skin, and in different experiences of what their insecurity could look like. And I'm always like, okay, how about nobody's talking about feeling like feeling misplaced at a place you clearly know you should be there, but it's not because there's anything wrong with you, but it is because you fear the people who are around would know that you are trying to be something you are not. Like, who wants to have that discussion? Who anyone wants to have that discussion? Very few people really have this discussion. And it's a different kind of insecurity if it is coming from something you can't help. Okay, if it's something you can't help, like where you grew up, the experiences you grew up, it's like you can't help it. That is your reality. And most times it is not because there is something wrong with where you're coming from. It is because you feel nobody else can relate, and you're the only person. And because not anyone can relate, now you have to assume this persona that they can relate to, which doesn't feel authentic to you. That was good. That was so good. That was so good. Yes, it's like you don't speak their language, even though it's English you're speaking, and so now you have to assume this persona that is not originally you, just so you can help them get to know you. But of course, you don't want to show them, or you don't want to tell them, oh, I grew up here, or I'm coming from here, because really, nobody needs to know that. It's not like nobody wants to know. It's like, oh, that's who cares? You're in here already, so make it count. It takes an extra effort for people to get to do the things they do, especially if they have this bulk of insecurity within themselves, and still make change. I think, for what is worth, having these discussions help you really navigate that kind of imposter syndrome. It's not something that is valid and legitimate, but it's very unjustified on a different kind of level. Like, it's on a different kind of level. And so I just want you to, if you leave this podcast, or if you leave this episode with anything, I want you to know that that type, or that death of imposter syndrome you might have, is not one that is founded on things that you can necessarily change. It is founded on things you have to own and embrace, and bring to the fore as much as possible to new experiences you have. So over the years, I've had to experience or experiment with different personalities for myself. I've had to become something, or sound like something, or sound like someone. And I've had to sound like a different person in so many instances. So much that I get confused what I'm supposed to feel like and talk like when I meet people. And I felt like I was carrying all these personalities around, because every opportunity to meet people who were not coming from my background meant, ooh, then there's a different Diana I have to bring out in order to fit in, or in order to understand these people. And one of the ways I have been able to do that was observe very closely what I watched in movies or on TV, for example. So these personalities that I had to adopt in order to blend in with people were mostly inspired by TV, because TV was like the window through which you saw the different sides of the world you live in. And then of course books, reading books, right? So you watch all these things and you read all these things, and they give you a sense of these different personalities and how their reality looks like, or what their background looks like. And so when you go for an event, or you go for a program, or you have any experiences interacting with other people, you ask yourself, okay, what lists what checklists do these people have, or this scenario or this experience I'm having, what checklist does it have, and does it look like something I have seen or read? If it does look like something that I have seen or read, then for sure I can become this person I read about in this scenario. I can talk like this person I've seen on TV. And so, for example, there are times you go for a networking event, and I have to use networking event because those are one of the varied experiences you tend to have at any short period of time. So you go for a networking event, and people are either like engineers, or um, architects, or they are finance people, they work at an investment company or something like that. And then you ask yourself, oh, okay, so it means I have to bring forth this knowledge, this person of me that knows these things, right? And because you've read and watched so much, you're like, oh, there was this story I read, and there was this architect, he talked like this, he or she, behaved like that. So that sort of gives you a fair idea of what you should be sounding like at that event. And you can find confidence in plainly saying, oh, I don't know what this is. What is it? Tell me. Or if they say something, you're like, oh, you smile so good, like ear to ear, you're smiling, but we both know you don't understand anything that was said, or anything, you can't even relate to the joke, but you're laughing. Then you're asking yourself, why was that funny? Why was that funny again? And then you can't find, you're like, okay, let's move on to the rest of the conversation. But it's a whole lot of work. Okay, it's really a whole lot of work trying to get the ghetto out of you. And I am in this mind space where I am encouraging every single one to embrace their beginnings, to embrace their backgrounds, and own it as a source of self-confidence. You don't know some things because you were not exposed to them growing up, but you've read right, you've watched things, you know. So when you want to have conversations, you can just chip in some of those experiences for people to also know, something, or to also learn something from you, to enrich the conversations and to make it more authentic. I believe in authentic conversations. I believe in crucial conversations. I believe in realistic, raw conversations. And what that often looks like might be being comfortable, very comfortable and very confident in what you don't know, and plainly point it out so you can learn. But it takes a journey to get there. That's one thing I have realized. It takes quite a journey to get there. And yeah, this conversation I'm having with you is just to help you begin that journey for you. You want to begin that journey so much that you can step into a room and openly say, ooh, I grew up by a railway, and there was a lot of noise, and my mother was a trader, or this or that, and this is how it has made me who I am today. These are some of the great things I experienced growing up. We didn't have this, we didn't have that, but we may do. Like, you own your like, there's another level of admiration and release or liberation that comes with being confident in who you are. like there's a different kind of liberation that comes with it, especially if you come from this disadvantaged areas or an underprivileged area. There is some level of like great liberation, freedom, release that comes from owning it and not being afraid. I I I have had the privilege of experiencing that liberation, if I can call it that, in the past couple of months, particularly because I started a podcast and started talking about it, and a lot of you came back telling me, "Oh, this is so relatable. I can so relate." Yeah, but then your journey might be different. Your journey to that very point where you can sit on a stage and say blatantly, "Oh, they used to sack us from school every time because my dad couldn't pay fees," for example. Well, my dad, newsflash, let me just chip this in. My dad prioritized paying our fees. So yeah, thankfully I wasn't sacked for school fees. I think I've been sacked for school fees like once, and I think that one the next day was paid. I mean, that I have to give my dad, um credit for, right? So if you have those situations and different scenarios that people did not have, that people will find weird, you should be able to own it and say, "Oh, okay, well, this is how I grew up. You guys didn't grow up like that. Oh, that's nice. That's interesting. Move on with the conversation." Like, there's I really wish you have that kind of confidence in who you are, where you're from, and own it in a way that brings others to not only admire you, but they want to learn about how that feels like, and possibly use your story or your experience as a point of change, or um as a point of change. Yeah, essentially. So that's what I think. Do not try to get the ghetto out. Keep the ghetto. Keep the ghetto. Own it, represent it, honor it, and bring others to its knowledge and its blends and diversities. Beyond that, I'm all about mentoring people. I'm all about pulling others along. I want you to share this episode with someone, or tell someone about this that you have heard, or this journey that you want to be on, for example, and mentor other people to begin that journey for themselves. Help them own the things that they need to own about their identity, and help them make change in areas that they could and should make change. I mean, if you have to do that, you surely have to do that with lots and lots of wisdom and tact. But then you don't want to give yourself that pressure. You still, it will come with mistakes. It might not feel right. It will take a lot of work. But begin that journey and help others to have that as well. Giving young people from disadvantaged areas the opportunity to have these conversations can be so liberating. One thing I have realized, especially when I talk to people from a shy man, is when I mention the issue about money, they then the conversation changes to, like, I can literally hear a sigh of relief. And that's one of the things I love. Like, let's have real conversations. So people come to you and they're like, "Oh, they want to do this, they want to do that, they just finished school." And you're like, "Okay, so now that you finished school, what's next?" And they're like, "Oh, they are just waiting. Their parents are asking them to wait, or their parents are asking them to explore these options." And then you're like, "Oh, okay, that's good. But how are you keeping up? Are you looking for a job? Because most devs staying at home after your final exam in senior high, for example, can be very devastating and depressing, because you don't have money. You might not have contact with your friends. You're just home with your parents, and it's not always fun." Yeah. So I'm like, "Oh, so how are you coping? How are you going to cope financially for yourself? Because there are going to be some things you might not want to ask your parents for." And when you mention the issue about money and how they are coping about their finances, they heave a huge sigh of relief, because they realize, you get it. You really get it. I want you to have those moments with people that you know can benefit from conversations like this, and try to be very real, plain with them, because trying to advise people or trying to coach people into doing one thing or the other sometimes always comes out of context for them, because it doesn't sit well in where they actually are. And and that's even because they are not always, you know, confident or open to sharing their actual context. They only give you like 5% of the actual situation. So if you can be empathetic enough to assess some of the, possible implications or possible indicators of their insecurity, their lack of confidence, their fears, and then you call it out, you're essentially drawing them in to have a real conversation with you. And nothing can change unless people can trust you with those vulnerable stories that they have. So yeah, I so encourage you to have these discussions with them. And it's not only for young people from disadvantaged communities or marginalized communities, but every single person could benefit from such a conversation. Like, share your experiences. If they've suffered abuse, they've suffered some form of marginalization in any way. I mean, have those conversations and try to really unpack them with them. The context might be different, but once you give people the safe space to share these contexts with you, the ones that they barely tell other people, that can begin a journey of what I would call liberation. Try this and let me know if you learned something new about a mentee or somebody you coach or mentor, and let's enrich that conversation on the podcast when you reach out to me. So yeah, I really hope today's conversation was beneficial to you. Don't forget to hit me up on our IG. Yes, the podcast has an IG page. It's at Ambitious Africans Podcast on Instagram. Share your thoughts. Review this podcast or this episode. Yes, so review it, rate it, subscribe, and share with somebody you know should listen. And come hit me up on IG after you're done. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.